Good afternoon, sixth graders. Or, excuse me, good morning, sixth graders. My times are mixed up. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the creation myths for the Dakota people. This is a part of their mythology. It's much like what you and I would call religion, but a very important part of their culture, as well as religion is with us today. Now, we're going to be trying something new called a pair deck. I've done this before in the past, but I just want to go through it with you. But before we get to that, I would like you to show you this video from yesterday. It did not play at all. It wouldn't load, so I did a roundabout way of doing this. And this is just a good review of who the Dakota people are, how should they be called or named, and some major parts of their culture. So let's just go ahead and watch this as a review, as a refresher from yesterday's work.
Dakota or Sioux people. At the time of the U.S.-Dakota War, the Dakota Nation was more generally known by the word Sioux. However, this is not a proper term. Sioux is a French corruption of the Anishinaabe word Nadawasu, which means snake or serpent. The term was popularized by whites in the United States government who did not understand its meaning. Some used it in the pejorative sense as a way of being intentionally disrespectful. The correct term for the entire tribe is Dakota, meaning friends or allies. As a tribe, the Dakota consists of 7 bands known as the 7 Council Fires. The bands are closely related in language, culture, and origin and still bound together in alliance for mutual protection. The 7 bands are named as follows: Tetons, Yanktons, Yanktonize, Sisseton, Wahpeton, Wapakute, and Metawakiton. While their languages are closely related, the Tetons speak Lakota and traditionally have lived furthest west, while the Yankton and Yanktonize speak Nakota and traditionally lived across the western plains. Within Minnesota at the time of the war, there were 4 Dakota bands. Together, these 4 bands are called the Santee. Among the Santee, there existed the upper bands of Sisseton and Wahpeton and the lower bands of Wapakute and Metawakiton. They have been called upper and lower because of their traditional locations along the upper and lower parts of the Minnesota River. During the war, many white writers and reporters categorized the Dakota as either hostile or friendly. These terms also come from a misunderstanding of the Dakota culture and people. The years preceding war were characterized by increased pressure on the Dakota to give up their traditional ways of living and to take up farming. This led to factionalism among the Dakota, which played an important role during the U.S.-Dakota War. Groups that incited hostilities were typically those that sought to protect the Dakota way of life that had been so threatened. Others followed the advice of missionaries and government officials to take up farming and Christianity, and therefore no longer had a reason to protect a way of living they had already seen taken away.
Okay, so that was a really nice refresher and preview of what's coming in this unit. And we will be talking about the Dakota from now till the end of the year, intermittently. The Dakota culture, the Dakota people were a part of so many important parts of Minnesota history that we cannot study Minnesota history without stumbling upon these interactions between the Dakota and the white culture. So we have to know a little bit about them to understand Minnesota's history. So our assignment for today is really quite simple. It's called a peer deck. And it looks like a normal Google slide presentation. However, there are videos and questions and little interactive things to do within each of the slides. So you need to pay very close attention to the slides. They're not on a timer, so you can move them forward and backward as you wish. And you need to do every activity that's listed. So to find this information, you need to go to your Google Classroom for today, 9:30, and it's called Dakota Creation Myths. And just go ahead and click on this. What you'll see there is instructions to watch the instructional video, which I'm giving to you now. I'll have the link there. And then the second thing is use the link below to join this peer deck activity. So if you click on this, it will send you to this page right here. Right? And I kind of like this first slide. I don't know why, but it's always nice to kind of know how you're feeling today. So I don't want you to skip this. I just want you to check in. I'll be the only one to see this, and it's okay to own your feelings and how you're doing at this time. So be honest with that. So once you click on that, I'm feeling pretty good right now. It'll start the process and begin your journey. And so it looks just like a Google slide. And you can go full screen up here, like I just did. And what you can do then is manipulate with the keys, or there's arrows down here at some point in time, and you can just move through the slideshow, you would think. Just click in the upper right hand corner. And what ends up happening is this arrow will pop up. And so here's the title slide, and then here's the first slide. And it's sort of a question to get you thinking about what we're going to be talking about today. The question says this: before we begin, what do you know? What creation stories about humans, concerning humans, do you know? Write a quick answer below. So what I did is I just sketched a quick picture of two people, a tree, a snake, and an apple. And for those of you who are thinking the same way I'm thinking, you kind of understand what that means. Maybe you heard another story about a large boat and a flood. Maybe you've heard other creation stories about human beings. Just sketch a quick picture about what you know there. And as you go through the slides, there are some slides where you just read. So go ahead and carefully read the passage. Much like reading class from Mr. Arnold, take your time, go through it and read it exactly. I like to follow along with the cursor. Keeps me on target, keeps me reading every word. I've noticed some of you skip around quite a bit. So do a good job of reading this, because this information will be useful later forward in the slide. Okay. Now the next question asks you to do a task that was related in the previous slide, plus your ability to read this slide. And then you use the tools down here to do what the instruction says here. And as you cycle forward, you'll see I've put some information down here, and then there's a link to a video. Click on that. It'll open up what needs to be opened up. And then after you watch the video, there are 1, 2, 3 questions that go along with that video. The final 2 slides then ask you to open up another video, a shorter one, 6 minutes, and listen to the stories about the Dakota culture, their creation stories, where their people came from, and how that is both a good thing and a bad thing to Dakota culture. Now, when you answer these questions right here, question is, what are some bad events that happen to the Dakota people at the Bedote in St. Paul? Your answer, of course, goes over here, and it needs to be in a complete sentence. And then the final question is kind of what I would call take a whole bunch of information that you know and condense it down, and then come up with a really deep answer. And that's this: how do you think the Dakota felt about the U.S. government building Fort Snelling on this Bedote, this sacred spot? And I didn't give you the answer in the presentation. I just want you to use your brain and put yourself kind of in the spot of the Dakota and think about, okay, how would I feel if I were them and the U.S. government built a big fort right on top of this sacred place? And then you just type your answer over here. And once you're done typing, there should be a submit button over here that basically ends this whole thing. And that's it. So we're going to try this. I seem to like it already. I'll be able to see your responses. Take your time. You can click back and forth. And of course, this should, if what I read is true, this should automatically dump into your Google Classroom, and I'll be able to see it and grade it or evaluate it as I see fit. So go ahead. Be patient with the videos, since a lot of us are going to be streaming the same thing at the same time. It may be slow or glitchy. Teachers, if that's the case, you can always make the choice to open this presentation yourself and then do it on the smartboard together. But I'm hoping this will work individually. Good luck and have a great Wednesday.